The Mummy is coming back to the big screen. Again. But this time, it looks like Hollywood might finally be getting it right. After decades of reinventing the same cursed Egyptian priest and his ancient wrath, the newest attempt to bring the Mummy to life is shaping up to be something different. It's not another over-the-top reboot, and thankfully, it's not trying to kick off a larger cinematic universe like they did back in 2017. That version, led by Tom Cruise, had plenty of hype but fell apart fast because it was too focused on building a franchise instead of telling a solid story. Now, the upcoming Mummy movie is going back to basics, and that's actually a good thing. What's exciting about this version, directed by Evil Dead Rise filmmaker Lee Cronin, is that it promises a standalone experience. It doesn't need to carry the weight of sequels or spin-offs. Instead, it can concentrate on doing one thing really well, telling a gripping, atmospheric, and possibly terrifying story. That alone makes this film stand apart from what came before. The truth is, ever since Marvel changed the game with its connected universe, a bunch of other studios have tried, and mostly failed, to do the same. DC had its ups and downs. Sony's Spider-Man universe has been patchy, and then there was Universal's infamous Dark Universe, which never even got past its first movie. That movie was The Mummy from 2017, and even with Tom Cruise at the center of it, it just didn't land. It was criticized for being too chaotic, too serious, and too desperate to jumpstart an entire universe of classic monsters in one go. Instead of delivering a compelling monster flick, the 2017 film spent more time setting up other characters and teasing future crossovers than it did building a story that actually worked. The tone was uneven, the plot was cluttered, and the visual effects were hit or miss. Unsurprisingly, it bombed with critics, earning a painfully low 15% on Rotten Tomatoes and failing to make much of an impression at the box office either. Cruise's star power wasn't enough to save it, which was a wake-up call to Hollywood. Star names alone can't fix a flawed concept. So now, several years later, we're looking at a very different strategy. Rather than trying to force these classic monsters into the mold of a shared cinematic universe, the smarter move is to treat each character, each monster, on its own terms. And that's exactly what we're seeing with this new wave of horror reboots. The Invisible Man from 2020 kicked things off with a fresh psychological spin, and Wolfman is reportedly on the way, following a similar standalone model. The new Mummy is following in those footsteps, which honestly feels like a much better fit. It helps that the horror genre has evolved so much in the past decade. Modern audiences expect more than just jump scares and CGI-heavy showdowns. They want atmosphere, characters with depth, and stories that tap into real emotions and fears. That's where a director like Lee Cronin comes in. His work on Evil Dead Rise proved he can balance visceral horror with compelling storytelling, and if he brings that same energy to The Mummy, this could be the franchise's big revival moment, not by going bigger, but by going smarter. And while the plot is still under wraps, there's room for the film to go in several directions. One strong possibility is that Cronin will lean into the horror roots of the 1932 original, channeling the eerie, slow-burning dread of Boris Karloff's performance rather than the swashbuckling, action-comedy vibes of the Brendan Fraser era. That doesn't mean it has to be dull or dreary. There's still space for mystery, adventure, and even dark humor. But the heart of it should be the curse, the ancient power, and the terror of waking something that was never meant to rise again. And if the studio really wants to make a splash at the box office, especially after Tom Cruise's version didn't meet expectations, they might consider bringing in a name with both dramatic gravitas and global appeal. Someone like Keanu Reeves could be a perfect fit. Reeves has that rare blend of calm intensity and charm that would make him believable as a scholar, an explorer, or even a tormented immortal with a past that ties directly to the curse. He doesn't have to play the Mummy himself either. He could be a mysterious archaeologist, a cursed wanderer, or maybe even someone guarding a terrible secret. Casting him wouldn't just generate buzz, it would also help anchor the film in a more grounded emotional core. And let's face it, his fan base stretches across generations, which would go a long way toward getting people into theaters. It also helps that Keanu has had a strong run with action and horror thriller hybrids. The John Wick series cemented his action credentials, and Constantine gave him genre cred with supernatural elements. With Cronin steering the horror side and Reeves providing that magnetic screen presence, this version of The Mummy could strike the right tone and reach a much wider audience than previous attempts. And this isn't just about the box office. It's also about giving new life to a character that's been mistreated by too many reboots. The Mummy, as a concept, still has massive potential. The idea of a cursed being from an ancient world trying to reclaim power or seek revenge can be timeless, if done right. But the trick is to focus on mood and mythology, not just explosions and mythology dumps. Keanu Reeves could bring both vulnerability and menace to the story, depending on his role. It's the kind of casting that could elevate the entire project and keep audiences coming back for more. One of the biggest lessons Hollywood has finally started to learn is that not every franchise needs to be a universe. Some stories are stronger when they stand alone. And classic monsters like The Mummy don't need spin-offs and sequels before they've even had a chance to tell a complete story. What they need is the right director, the right tone, and a cast that understands how to balance the old-school gothic horror with modern sensibilities. Looking at recent monster films that have done well, it's easy to see the formula that's starting to click. The Invisible Man worked because it focused on fear and abuse wrapped in a terrifying metaphor. Renfield went for campy fun with a violent twist. Each film played to its strengths instead of trying to be the next MCU. So, if The Mummy sticks to that route and brings in someone like Keanu Reeves to give the story depth and international star power, it could finally get the respect it deserves. Described as a full-blown horror reimagining, the film boasts the creative force of Blumhouse, horror legend James Wan, and rising director Lee Cronin, all of whom are known for pushing the genre to its limits. Cronin hinted at the film's tone in a statement to The Hollywood Reporter, saying he's digging deep into the earth to raise something very ancient and very frightening. This darker approach was also confirmed on the film's official Instagram, promising something terrifying will be unleashed in 2026. While the setup may echo the classic tale of archaeologists awakening an ancient evil, this version won't rely on action-adventure tropes. It's going all in on atmosphere, dread, and raw fear. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share,